And I'm Logan Chalmers. Welcome to Champ Chat. This is a news talk show produced by students here at Champlain College in both the broadcast media and communications departments.
We're in our production studio on campus, and as you can see, we're all taking COVID precautions. We're all wearing masks. And one of the news items we'll be getting into today is the state of affairs on our campus.
Today, we'll be showing you a number of news pieces all produced in classes, and some of them were produced specifically for social media.
But before we got into that, we've got a couple of other people in our studio we want to introduce you to. We have Emily Brewer and Mike Safey. Hi guys, you've got some live interviews for us up on Champ Chat. Can you give us a preview?
Hi, I'm Mike Safey.
I'm Emily. It's great to be with you here today, Mike.
Yes, it is, Emily. And just like you said, Maya, we're going to be conducting some live interviews. We've got a costume designer, a junior here at Champlain College, who's going to show us some of her homemade costumes that she uses around Halloween time and for cosplay throughout the year.
And later on after that, we'll be talking with Zach Condon. He is a guitarist as well as a singer-songwriter who is going to be performing one of his newest songs here live today. Back to you, Logan.
Thanks, Mike and Emily. It certainly sounds like it'll be a packed news show for us this afternoon. As we mentioned earlier, because of COVID, colleges, including Champlain College, have been in the news. The question is, how are schools managing this crisis, and how has life on campus fundamentally changed? Our own Mike Safey has the inside scoop right here at Champlain.
Many students are attending their classes fully online at Champlain College, but the ones who are on campus must adhere to strict safety guidelines. The school requires masks be worn at all times while on campus, and classrooms have been revamped for social distancing.
We assessed every square inch of every single building. How many people can we fit in these classrooms now if we use our 6-foot space? Move every single chair and table around to try and work out, this 24-person classroom, how many people can we now fit safely?
Students and staff are also subject to COVID testing every week. Inside Perry Hall, they are given a rapid COVID test and receive their results within 2 days. Logan Chalmers, a junior at Champlain, says the testing has been a positive experience.
I think Champlain's found a really quick and effective way for students to get tested here on campus, and I think it's definitely created a sense of security and safety here on campus as well.
Out of 8,031 tests so far, only 2 have been positive. The Health and Wellness Department is ready to act on any positive cases.
As soon as we know about that positive test, we're reaching out to that student and we are getting them out of their current living situation and into an isolated living situation.
Campus dining halls also look quite different. It can only accommodate 70 diners as opposed to their usual 350. Plexiglass dividers are also placed at tables, and most students choose to carry out their meals. Cleaning protocols have also changed. Many residence halls are cleaned and disinfected multiple times a day. Despite the changes, many students and staff are happy to be back.
I feel comfortable coming to work. One thing I want to say is I really am just very impressed of how responsible students have been. I mean, our rates are extremely low.
In Burlington, I'm Mike Safey.
Our next story was produced by Emily Brewer, who went out and created a social media-style news piece about a protest. This one took place before the state capitol in Montpelier, and it was called the Vermont Women and Femme March. As Emily explains with graphics and sound, the focus of the event was a call for racial equality.
The revolution starts right here, and look around because this is going to be who's leading it. And this is who I hope is following us. As we fight for justice and equality in our little state and beyond, we have connected with our Black and brown sisters, siblings, and brothers, and have been welcomed into a community of people who look like us and who share values. It has been the most powerful and healing experience of my life.
Like the time you clutched your purse as a Black man walking.
We're switching gears and locations now from Montpelier to right back here in Burlington. One of the centerpieces of downtown Burlington is City Hall Park, but it's been closed for about a year as the officials decided to renovate. This was met with a lot of controversy, and some protesters and critics said that they were going to remove too many trees. But the work was finally completed just this month, and Hannah Wright made this social media piece about the new park.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have a story about how COVID-19 is changing the look of high school sports.
And we'll also be meeting a Halloween costume maker right here in our studio. We'll be right back.
Myth. If you get COVID-19, you'll recover after a few days. That myth is false. We're only just beginning to understand the effects of COVID-19 on the human body, as we're starting to see more and more people identifying as long haulers who are having symptoms for weeks, if not months, after their initial infection. Continue to wear a mask, socially distance, and wash your hands. Together, we can keep COVID out of school.
For ways to keep your community safe, go to backtoschooltogether.com.
Staring contest!
You still got it. I know.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Have you been to a sporting event lately? For some of us, the answer is no. Things have been so difficult with COVID restrictions. But here in Vermont, local high school sports are alive and kicking, and Scott Capozzoli captured this story about a high school South Burlington boys volleyball game, but it wasn't as much about how the game went, but as much the game was held and how the event was available to pedestrians as well.
Student athletes on the South Burlington High School Wolves varsity boys volleyball team continue their season against the Mount Mansfield Union Cougars. However, in order for teams to play safely, the previous indoor games were moved to the turf football field outside. All people inside the field are required to wear masks as well.
As you can see, games are taking place outside. This encourages fans to social distance where they'd be inside sharing the same air during a normal season.
The change in playing conditions has introduced a whole new element for players to take into account on the field.
It's completely different. I mean, from playing on a court to moving to the turf is a total game changer. I mean, balls move different in the air. If it's sunny, you can't see. There's if it gets dark, we can't play. So those are some huge changes.
Along with the change of scenery, players also have to adapt to a modified schedule.
Yeah, it's been weird. We don't play 5 days a week like we used to. We also, whenever our game gets canceled, it's just rescheduled. And so this week we had 4 games, or this week we have 4 games. So Tuesday, Wednesday, today, and then we have another game on Saturday.
Coach Ellen Oppenheim has been behind the varsity boys volleyball team for 3 years. This being her final season, she's adamant about helping the team adapt to new conditions.
you know, like it's an indoor sport, and now we're playing it outside, which is crazy. There's things that I never would have thought about, like wind or rain or all of these, like mud on the field, all these things that we've never had to consider, and it's super, super strange. It's also awesome that they get to play. I've never seen more morale than I have this year. People are super pumped.
An amazing attitude to have when coaching through these adverse times. One that won the Wolves the match tonight and will drive them forward through the season as the weather gets more harsh this fall. In Burlington, I'm Scott Capozzoli.
Well, that was an exciting game from the South Burlington boys volleyball team, and I'm so glad they were able to play despite COVID.
Absolutely. We're going to switch gears here for a moment. We're going to have some more fun in the studio as we have a guest. Let's send it over to Mike and Emily.
Thank you, Logan. We're here now with Champlain Junior Olivia Tyner, who makes her own costumes and cosplay. Olivia, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good.
That's great to hear. So, could you tell us a little bit about the costume you're wearing right now?
So this is one of many casual costumes that I've put together for just like wearing on a day-to-day basis throughout October, because I like to have the spirit with me whenever I can. I made both the headband and the cuff that I have on. The cuff is made from a piece of leather that I got at Michael's, and I have the button here is from Joann's. It's a nice little compass rose. And the headband is made out of an old t-shirt that I just kind of twisted and then sewed on my little octopus button that was also found at Joann's, same as the compass. And there's other pieces here that I've just gained throughout the years, like my telescope necklace, my mermaid ring that's a little worn, which I think adds nicely to the effect.
Definitely. Well, it's clear that you're very talented. Could you tell us a little bit about maybe how you started to get into making your own costumes?
I went to my first Comic-Con when I was 17 years old, and I was wearing a store-bought costume at the time. My friend dragged me along because the cast of Rocky Horror was there, and we were Colombian magenta because we had been for Halloween the year previous. I felt a little left out that I was one of the only people who wasn't wearing a homemade costume. Not that the actors saw a problem with that. Nell Campbell was kind enough to even give us an autograph free of charge. So it was a really fun experience, and I knew if I wanted to keep attending Comic-Cons, I wanted to be able to have my own homemade stuff like the majority of the people there.
So, we see you've got a couple pieces here with you. Could you kind of take us through the process that went behind kind of making those?
So this first t-shirt that I've got here, the claw mark shirt, is kind of the idea that I wanted a costume that was like somebody who'd just been attacked by a werewolf. So this is 2 t-shirts that I cut up and sewed back together. And then I cut open this part with the gray fabric with an X-Acto knife, had to sew it back onto the red there and added fabric paint to it so that it had a nice bloody effect to it. And then of course up here it's a little misshapen. There's this tear along the neckline as well, to just add to the effect.
And when it comes to that Camp Half-Blood shirt that you've got there, take us through that too as well.
So this came out of one of my many quarantine projects over the summer. I had to keep myself busy. After the announcement of the Disney Plus series, I said I haven't had Camp Half-Blood or Percy Jackson merch since I was a kid. So I started by painting my own t-shirt. This is completely hand-painted. I don't do iron-on stuff. I didn't have access to screen printing materials. So typically when I paint a t-shirt, I have a piece of cardboard that I throw the t-shirt over and secure with binder clips to keep it in place. So I did that, and I added chalk for the letters first and then went back over it with the paint.
Seems like quite the process, but you make it work. Would you like to quickly tell us a little bit about the earrings you brought with us?
Yes, so these are runestone earrings. I made a few of these, several pairs, at the beginning of the month. This particular rune is the official rune of the god Freyr, who's the god of summer. I have ones for the rune for the harvest, for a bunch of other stuff. I can't even remember all of them at this time. But it's hand-sculpted clay that I took some crafting wire and had to like pinch into it before baking, because it's an oven dry clay, and there's a little bit of gold paint where I've kind of indented the rune.
Well, those are really great, Olivia. I mean, you're definitely keeping the Halloween spirit alive and making it all by hand. Like, that's something that I personally could never do. So
Very impressive.
Thank you.
Now we're going to throw it back to Maya in the studio.
Those earrings were really impressive, and all the costumes were as well. I would totally wear all of them for Halloween. So we're going back to the subject of sports for this next piece. One of the biggest industries in Vermont is downhill skiing and snowboarding. With COVID cases on the rise, there are questions about what kind of season this is going to be for local resorts. I recently went to a ski sale to get a sense of how things are going to be in the preseason.
Our 37th year doing it. It's normally held either here or St. Michael's College, and it's made up of equipment from vendors that are brought in from all over New England. This year, due to COVID, we only took consignment from our club members, and some vendors just opted not to attend. So normally, yes, we would have more consignment items. So we'd have more skis, boots, soft goods. The biggest thing we're probably lacking this year would be ski boots and skis. And part of that is vendors, and part of that is consignment.
Your number for contact tracing?
Yep. Jesse, J-E-S-S-E. Beck. We used a platform called Simultaneous, so we set that up to allow those slots for people to register. It's free for people to do it, which was a kind of a big thing for us.
It's been a change. There's been more people wanting to get into a sport, whether it be Nordic or just regular alpine or snowboarding, because everyone's been so cooped up with COVID. They want to get out and be able to do stuff, and skiing looks like one of those things that can have some sort of normalcy, being that everything else has been so restricted and so strict.
Can the snow come any sooner? I know I'm excited for skiing, and I'm going to buy my Sugarbush Pass through the Champlain discount, and going to that ski sale made me really excited to start the season again.
Well, winter season certainly is approaching, and we'll look to see all Champlain students out on the trail hopefully this winter. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll have another guest in studio, guitarist Zach Condon, who will be performing some of his own compositions. We'll get to that right after this break.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back, everyone. What do you think so far, Mike? We've had quite the show.
Yeah, Emily, I mean, we've had a wide variety of things going on. We've had a costume maker. That's been really fun to see all those really unique homemade costumes that we had. Multiple news stories about the effects of COVID on campus and off campus. I think, we've had so far a really good rounded show, and now we're going to have a musical guest to take us out and give us really something to look forward to for the end of the show.
Definitely. Yeah, so I'm excited to introduce today. We've got Zach Condon with us.
Glad to be here.
Hi, Zach. So from what I understand, not only do you play guitar, but you sing and write your own songs as well. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I have been playing for about 9 years, maybe even 10. And I started with covers when I was younger because they were a lot easier to understand. And eventually, after a few events, one of the major ones being the loss of one of my inspirations and close friends, is when I started really writing my own pieces. And during quarantine, the effects of COVID kind of brought me down, and I never really wrote anything until I got here, where I felt like my mind opened up a little bit, and I've been writing songs like crazy. So
could you talk a little bit about the songwriting process? I mean, it seems like it could be a very intricate and emotional process. So kind of take us through how long it takes, or kind of the way you have to lay things out in your mind to write a good song.
Yeah, so the songs really depend on my current mood. I like to express my mood through music. I find it a lot easier. So there are days when I'm feeling happy and a more upbeat tune will come out, or sad, I'll have a slower dance. And there are times when songs can come to me in a flash, and I'll have one down in 2 minutes, or there's times where it takes me a month to write another line to a song. It's a hard process, but usually I start with the chords, and then what the chords give me is the feeling, and then I just kind of go from there with the writing.
Very nice. Well, it sounds like quite the impressive process. I know I certainly could never do something like that. Now, Zach, could you tell us a little bit about the song that you've prepared to perform for us today?
Yeah, so this is a song I wrote probably 2 weeks ago. It's called Dear Mother, Alaska. Alaska being the state where I'm from. And the Dear Mother as a tribute to my own mother, thanking her for what she's done, along with my father, and just reflecting on things when I was a child and just growing up in the last frontier.
Well, Zach, we're anxious to hear it, so whenever you're ready, feel free to take us away.
Mother, I write you now from a different kind of life. Things are scary and they're new, but I'm doing my best to get through. Dear mother, my heart sing like you do. I hope things go good, and for you too. Dear mother, I love you, and I miss you more every day. I'll be back soon, when the winter comes back too. My home is where the water is, and the cold hangs around most of the year, where the wild roams and the wind blows and howls like us kids used to. Where I live is uncertain, but I know where my roots run in. Father, I write you to thank you for making me a man and telling me to smile when things get out of hand. Dear Father, I tell you, I forgive you for not being around. But look how far I've come since then to now. My home is where the water is, and the cold hangs around most of the year, where the wild roams and the wind blows, in house like us kids used to. Where I live is uncertain, but I know. Yeah, no. Yeah, no. Yeah, no. But I know where my roots run in, where my roots run in.
Thank you so much, Zach. That was a wonderful performance.
Thanks for having me.
That was really amazing, Zach. I mean, thank you so much for being here and for providing us with such an amazing song. We're going to send it back now to Logan in the studio.
So that was a beautiful, breathtaking song. Thank you, Zach. I love the Travis style picking you did. So that's our show today. Thanks for checking out Champ Chat. I'm Maya Gassman.
And I'm Logan Chalmers, and have a happy and safe Halloween.